This is Mersheimer. Now, before Ukraine, and before he told the truth about Israel, he was considered the leading scholar on international foreign relations. He still is, by the way. And so listen to the facts he's going to spew right here about Israel and Palestine.
All over the planet are turning against Israel. An Israeli think tank today that has been tracking protests around the world gave some figures for what it looked like between October 7th and October 13th in terms of the number of protests around the world that were pro-Israel versus pro-Palestine. And then it looked at the numbers from October 13th up to the present. 69% were pro-Palestinian in the first 6 days after October 7th, 69%. 31% were pro-Israel. Since October 13th, if you look at the number of protests around the world, 95% have been pro-Palestinian and 5% have been pro-Israel. The public opinion around the world has shifted against Israel. And if you look at some of the demonstrations in places like London and Washington, D.C., it's truly amazing the number of people who are coming out in support of the Palestinians. To support my point that it was just not smart for Israel to launch this bombing campaign, right? You can make an argument for going after Hamas and doing it in a surgical way, or as surgical a way as possible. But that's not what they did.
John Mersheimer is an international relations scholar and professor at the...
So it's becoming apparent that Israel is like a factory that produces anti-Zionists like their Toyotas. By the way, not anti-Semites. Anti-Zionists, right? That's what the Israel and the Israel defenders do. They always conflate being anti-Zionist with being anti-Israeli or anti-Judaism. Those are totally different things. Don't fall for it. So you can be an anti-Zionist. You can be against the government of Israel. You can be against the idea of Israel as a state. That doesn't make you an anti-Semite. By the way, Palestinians are Semites, just so you know. But again, just like with the territory in Gaza and the West Bank and Palestine, in Israel, how it's an apartheid state, that word is an apartheid word because the anti-Semite only applies to Jews. Doesn't apply to Palestinians. Isn't that kind of interesting? Mm-hmm. So even in that word, it's reflected to the apartheid state that the Palestinians actually have to live under. So those are some amazing stats. 95% of all the world's protests were pro-Palestinian. And I'm guessing, just like here, when they had the March for Israel or the March Against Anti-Semitism, I don't know what they called it, but we found out that they had to pay people to go to it. They were paying people $250 to go to that rally. So who knows how much of the other 5% of rallies are being paid. And I know someone's going to clip that and say, Jimmy is trafficking in an anti-Semitic trope. She's trafficking in anti-Semitic tropes. You know this guy, Rabbi Shmuley?
Sure do.
So he's the guy that...
wrote Oprah's Rabbi.
That's Oprah's Rabbi?
I'm sure my joke about Rabbi Shmuley.
No.
He used to hang out with Michael Jackson and Oprah. It sounds like an old joke. A Rabbi, Oprah, and Michael Jackson are hanging out.
So I guess he did a debate with this guy named...
Muhammad Hajib.
Yeah. And he kept bringing up the Muhammad Hajib kept bringing up that his daughter sells sex toys for a living.
Were they arguing about Israel?
Yeah.
I feel like Muhammad Hajib also is not a serious man.
Is it me or does the name Muhammad Hajib and Rabbi Shmuley sound like bigoted slurs?
That's how I felt.
And so he thought, so he goes, in recognition of all that my friend, brother, and debating partner, Muhammad Hajib official, did to promote my daughter's sex company in our Piers Morgan debate, we are offering a special promo code on kosher.sex for lubricants, vibrators, all the other sexual products that he repeatedly referenced in the debate.
He said, and bizarrely.
Bizarrely.
Not as bizarre as you doing it.
Yeah, it's more bizarre that you're doing this. Simply use the discount code MOHAJAB at kosher.sex. Use the discount code now to buy all your intimacy needs. Thanks, Mohammed, for repeatedly plugging both the company and the products, and we hope that they have been helpful and useful to you. We're serious, and the promo code is real. #Mocha.
People use them to plug my daughter, Hannah.
And that's how we got the Holy Bible, ladies and gentlemen. So here he is literally doing it. Here it says his daughter who sells the sex toys. And this is Rabbi Shmuley, Oprah's rabbi, who thought this would be a good idea. And Zionist, by the way, Zionist crazy genocide defender. And he thought this was a good idea.
Hi everyone. I'm being stopped all over the streets of London. Here I am with my daughter Hannah in front of Tower Bridge, which I consider the most beautiful bridge in the world. Hannah doesn't.
No, not exactly.
But we are here to announce we're so grateful to our brother Mohammed Hijab for continually. Thanks, Mohammed. For continually promoting Hannah's kosher sex company based on the book that I wrote, and especially the lubricants that he spoke about.
Oh, that's right, the super slippery ones.
Super slippery ones.
Couldn't handle the facts, so I had to go after my dad's kids.
So, in honor and in recognition.
I didn't hear that part before. Couldn't handle the facts. You went after my dad's kids. Me, the one who sells sex toys.
Well, at least he didn't bomb you. Like he's advocating they bomb children in Gaza.
He didn't go after his kids like some people named Mohammed.
And in gratitude for Mohammed continually giving your company international promotion. What are we doing, Hannah?
We're having a discount. A Mohammed Hijab discount.
There's a new Mohammed Hijab discount code. You go to kosher.sex, right?
Kosher.sex. At the checkout, you can put in Mo Hijab.
Mo Hijab. MOHIJAB. Okay?
So your sex can be both holy and hot.
What?
Right.
Now
Or
your sex can be
it could be,
kosher sex.
listen, it's even better the way Muhammad said it. It could be unholy shmoly. The unholy shmoly sex is even better than the holy
God's killing my boner.
Mohammed Hijab.
So Muhammad, thank you for promoting Hannah's. We really appreciate it. I was there to debate Israel, but you took the opportunity to really give Hannah's company all
Appreciate you.
right, all made in Israel products, correct?
Yeah, thank God. Our
So
first
Muhammad's
product's coming
gonna
out,
help.
Our first kosher sex product made in Israel.
Right.
And some of the proceeds are going to go to soldiers, God willing. So, yeah, that's until today.
And you can
You know, I'm pretty sure there was less creepy shit in Ashley Biden's diary. This is real.
see that Muhammad wore in the debate the white and blue of the Israeli flag. So he was out to promote Israeli companies and promote Israel and promote kosher sex especially because he kept on speaking about it. So again, you go to kosher. This is for real, right? You go to kosher.sex. And if you're buying a lubricant or he kept on speaking about vibrators, he kept on speaking about all these sexual products which we use for intimacy between husbands and wives in order to make marriages more passionate. And if you want to buy any of these products that he kept on referencing in the debate about Israel, what do you do as you check out, Hannah?
At the checkout code, at the checkout, you put in the code. There's a promo code that you can input.
It's Mohammed Hijab, Mo Hijab, and thank you, Mohammed Hijab discount code, and you get 10% off, which is it's the deal of the century. Thank you, Mohammed. God bless
Got
you.
you.
I would rather be carpet bombed than hear them talk about this.
It's so. By the way, he didn't just do one video. He did another video.
Oh, dear God.
And he did another video. I like what Dan Cohen says. This is incredibly creepy and unbecoming of a rabbi, so it makes perfect sense for you. You're an intellectual and moral fraud. Shmuley, enjoy the ratio. And he got ratioed hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sex, but I don't know if it's kosher.
So those are the, oh my God.
He's friends with Oprah.
That's Oprah's
and Michael
friend.
Jackson. So we'll see. Let's see how, was it a surprise he's creepy? Close personal relationship with Michael Jackson and Oprah.
Close
Winfrey.
personal friend of Oprah and Michael Jackson. No, I'm not surprised he's a creep. What do you think he's hearing when he has that look on his face? So let me go throw it to our resident Jew, Keaton. Keaton, go ahead and respond to that.
There are proxy in the region. As RFK said, there are aircraft carriers. Joe Biden said if there was not an Israel in the Middle East, we would have to invent one. That's why we support Israel. It has nothing to do with democratic values or American values or Western liberal values. This is a police state. She's not allowed to celebrate outside that her daughter is home. It's just one more example of the narrative falling to pieces. Wolf Blitzer was one of the first people to actually challenge the IDF. I think you guys covered that on your show. I know we did. He was one of the first people to actually push the IDF guy about casualties, right? Oh, so you're saying you knew that there were hundreds of people in this refugee camp and you decided to bomb it anyway to get to the one Hamas commander that you said was there? He was one of the first, and I can't explain why. Like you said, former AIPAC guy. But this is really this whole episode is really revealing a lot about a lot of things, including the United States media. And the fact that you're starting to see some cracks in the armor here is significant. But this is just one more example of the true face of Israel showing itself. This is our proxy in the Middle East because we need force in the Middle East. This has nothing to do with it being the only democracy in the Middle East.
Okay, Kurt, nothing?
It's just even a human zero like Wolf Blitzer who's got to report on how crazy Putin is all this time and all the atrocities.
Yeah,
even a
exactly.
just a hollowed out, that's a tough one to reconcile. It's got to be. To hear we blow up 400 people to get one guy after you've been going on, going on all the wokey things and all the sensitive liberal whatever, and all of a sudden it's all of our eyes should be red, and he's really got to sit there and have that Paul Simon, Simon and Garfunkel song in his head right now.
Well, now the New York Times is saying, like I said, twice as many women and children dead in Gaza as have been killed in Ukraine in the past 2 years.
And Ukraine has women on the front line.
Cognitive distance, right?
Ukraine's making women fight, and it's less of them dead.
Yeah. So, Keaton, what's your theory on why the New York Times, CNN are actually starting to turn and tell truths about Israel? What do you make of that?
I think the evidence is so in people's faces now that they can't really hide this from the libs anymore. Because don't forget, CNN, New York Times, liberals read this, and it's very easy to lie to liberals about 99% of things. It's easy to lie to liberals about Ukraine. It's easy to lie to liberals about COVID. It's easy to lie to liberals about January 6th, right? Something that's this in your face, even a liberal, even a dumb as dog shit liberal sees a baby with its face blown in half and says, that shouldn't be happening, right? And so I think that's why. I think they realize that their consumers at the end of the day are libs, and this information is too visceral and too clear to spin to even the dumbest media consumers in America, which are Biden voting shit libs. That's how horrible Israel is, that even the libs can figure out how horrible they are.
Wow.
And that's honestly what I think. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because Ukraine, you had to know a little bit, right?
Right.
COVID, you had to know a little bit. What is COVID? It's biochemistry. It's little viral things you can't see. It's easier to tell someone, oh, yeah. This
Here's
you
an
can't.
Israeli mother's letter to Hamas. Thank you for extraordinary humanity. This is real. Danielle Aloni and her daughter Amelia, 5, were held hostage by Hamas for 49 days in besieged Gaza. On November 24th, the Israeli mother and daughter were released as part of a temporary ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel and reunited with their relatives. Before they left Gaza, Danielle Aloni wrote a thank you letter to Hamas saying, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your extraordinary humanity shown towards my daughter, Amelia. Qassam Brigades, which is the armed wing of Hamas, shared the letter on its official Telegram account on November 27th. The letter was originally written in Hebrew and accompanied by an Arabic translation, along with a photograph of the Israeli mother and her daughter. In her handwritten letter in Hebrew, Danielle said, she, Amelia, acknowledges feelings like all of you are her friends. Not just friends, but truly beloved and good. And there it is. And here's the letter. Aloni acknowledged the good care given to the hostages in Gaza and wrote, thank you for the many hours you spent as caregivers. She further stated her daughter has not only bonded with Hamas, but also felt like a queen. Children should not be in captivity, but thanks to you and other kind people we met along the way, my daughter felt like a queen in Gaza. Aloni ended her letter with compassion for Hamas, stating, I will remember your kind behavior shown in spite of the difficult situation you faced and the severe losses you suffered here in Gaza. I wish in this world we could truly be good friends, she wrote, and added her well wishes to Gazans. I wish you all health and well-being, health and love to you and your family's children. Daniela and Amelia Aloni were among 24 Israeli hostages released by Hamas on November 24th. They were visiting Danielle's sister and her family at Kibbutz Nir Az in southern Israel before being taken hostage. An Israeli hostage turns around to give the Hamas soldier a handshake, unprompted. This man was keeping her hostage for over 2 weeks and allegedly raped and decapitated babies. She still gave him a handshake, unprovoked. Wow, Hamas really are sorcerers. So let's watch that.
It's okay, let's go. It's okay, let's go.
So there she is.
You go with this one.
Shalom.
Okay. You go with this.
Every hostage gave a handshake or waved to Hamas with a friendly smile when released. Why does the Israeli government forbid these people to talk to the press? Hamas' primary intention was to get some hostages or to swap. So the reason why they got those hostages, so they can swap them to get people who are hostage in Israeli prisons, a lot of them children. Here's the wave. See the wave? Everybody's waving. How does the Israeli army treat the Palestinians? Well, Israeli army beat us. Freed Palestinian boy narrates an ordeal in prison. Every week, they, the Israeli army, came to beat us. And they took all our clothes, bed coverings, and mattresses, says Osama Nayef Osoma, who has been freed after spending 5 months in an Israeli detention. That sounds... I don't have a hard time believing that. So again, this is not turning out good for Israel. I don't know what they think is how this is going to end up. But if you thought anti-Semitism was a problem before this, oh boy. I'm surprised there hasn't been a world war over this already. I'm surprised that other Arab countries haven't just decided to go mental on Israel, because 95% of the protests around the world right now are pro-Palestinian and anti-Zionist. And Zionism is garbage. Zionism is akin to Nazism.
Anyway.
Oh boy.
Well, look, this is what we don't understand. This is Eastern Europe.
Right.
None of this has anything to do with us.
Agreed.
We should not be involved. Period. Other than to help negotiate an end to the conflict.
Agreed. And I have to tell you that the hundreds and hundreds of people commenting agree.
Well, you know what your viewers can do that I think most of us are beginning to learn to do in the West is whatever is said about Russia, drop the word Russia, substitute Ukraine, and you're closer to the truth.
Colonel, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll have you.
Yeah, Judge, this was never about Ukraine. Not once. I mean, Ukraine was used liberally, and I mean that in the general sense, not in the political sense. But it was very clear for a number of us, like you're not trying to help these people win, are you? You're just simply giving them stuff and letting them go off into essentially a form of World War I attrition warfare, where you're just throwing people into the grinder and hoping for the best, because that's what they did. And at this point, I think they really did believe, Judge, that throwing enough stuff at Russia would simply degrade Russia and see Putin and Russia fail. And they could care less about the very thing you just said, the lives of a whole generation of Ukrainians. They should be ashamed of themselves, but they're not. They're never going to be ashamed of themselves, because their politics is a form of collective narcissism that allows them to do whatever they think is right and ignore the reality in which we live.
Has Western Europe soured on supporting Ukraine the way?
Watch this. This is a compilation of Benjamin Netanyahu warmongering. He seems like, I guess he's the permanent Israel prime minister. Watch this.
If you take away the Soviet Union and its chief proxy, the PLO, international terrorism would collapse.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. Obviously, we like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran, just as I would like to see in Iraq. The question now is a practical question. It's not a question of whether Iraq's regime should be taken out, but when should it be taken out? It's not a question of whether you'd like to see a regime change in Iran, but how do it...
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
The answer is categorically yes, is Iraq and Iran. But a third nation, by the way, is Libya as well. Libya is trying very rapidly to build an atomic bomb capability. So you have here now 3 nations.
All stand together to stop Iran's march of conquest, subjugation, and terror. I know that no matter on which side of the aisle you sit, you stand with Israel.
By the way, that's a command. That's an order he was giving to Congress. That wasn't him making an assessment. He was telling them, you stand with Israel. And then that's what they did. They all stood. So the seemingly permanent Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is seen here revealing his history of getting everybody else to fight his wars except himself or his people. It's like he's part Hitler, part Tom Sawyer. That's right. He's Tom Hitler, ladies and gentlemen. And he is as pious a Jew as Vito Corleone was a good Catholic. When he says that he kept saying that we must overthrow Iraq. We must overthrow Russia. We must overthrow Libya and Iran. He just means you. He means you. That's what he's talking about. Let me bring in the 2 Jews from the Jew dissidents. First of all, what about him being the permanent prime minister? And isn't that whoever put that together, that's quite a compilation. It's a real wake-up call. So it seems like the real terrorist in the Middle East is Israel and not those other countries, correct?
But yeah, this is like his 3rd stint, I think, as prime minister. I believe it's his 3rd stint. But yeah, I mean, they give this as a dictation, right? I mean, they just dictate what our policy is going to be because, as RFK says, Israel is our aircraft carrier in the Middle East. They are our proxy in the region. And so we have to do what they want. They exert an enormous amount of influence. I think we're going to cover later on the show the $20 million that's being offered to a challenger to Rashida Tlaib, which she didn't even have the balls to vote against the resolution that equated anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. So, yeah, no, I mean, look, they just exert a tremendous amount of control. And that's what they're there for. That's why Joe Biden said famously, 30 years ago, maybe even longer, if there wasn't an Israel, we would have to create one. We need a proxy in the region there. And that is why we will back them no matter what. And they know we have to back them no matter what. So they exploit that relationship on their end by dictating, like he says there, you stand with Israel. Yes, we do. Everybody stands up.
Everybody stand.
All right, now, what do you think about Benjamin Netanyahu?
I think he's a very snappy dresser. I was trying to get into his sartorial taste the whole time. That was my amazing take. No, we did a piece the other night about The Nation ran an article a few months ago that went pretty much unremarked and unnoticed, demonstrating that everything that we claimed Russia did, Israel did in 2016. And if you look at a lot of the things that look like cover-ups, that even if you were a skeptic of Russiagate, you couldn't argue that some of the behavior wasn't suspicious. That is the missing piece of the puzzle. There was collusion. The Trump campaign was colluding with Israel. Yes, they were getting intelligence ahead of WikiLeaks dumps, but they were getting that information from Israel. Basically, everything you were told in Russiagate, you could attribute more or less to Israel. I think what we've really seen over the course of this Gaza war is how much of a just absolute blank check they have and how absolutely absurd it is when we talk about these dangerous foreign leaders. That's why that was one of the things I screamed at Rachel Maddow, because earlier in the evening she had talked about dangerous foreign leaders. I said, is Netanyahu a dangerous foreign leader? Clearly, he is a dangerous foreign leader. He is going before Congress multiple times, as you showed in this footage, trying to manipulate our country into getting into World War III, like his lesser light Zelensky does.
This is really kind of stunning, this video. I don't think you can overstate how crazy this is. And if you want to see who the real warmonger is in the Middle East, who the real psychopathic murderer is, or the guy who's the unstable terrorist in the Middle East, let's watch this again.
If you take away the Soviet Union and its chief proxy, the PLO, international terrorism would collapse.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. Obviously, we like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran, just as I would like to see in Iraq. The question now is a practical question. It's not a question of whether Iraq's regime should be taken out, but when should it be taken out? It's not a question of whether you'd like to see a regime change in Iran, but how do it...
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
The answer is categorically yes, is Iraq and Iran. But a third nation, by the way, is Libya as well. Libya is trying very rapidly to build an atomic bomb capability. So you have here now three nations.
All stand together to stop Iran's march of conquest, subjugation, and terror. I know that no matter on which side of the aisle you sit, you stand with Israel.
Oh, what you say, bitch? Fucking black people? Fuck you.
And all those clowns applauding are some of the most unscrupulous, easily corrupted motherfuckers you've ever met in your life. They're the opposite of integrity and dignity. They are bought and paid for, and they are cowards, and they will sell this country out for a nickel, and they already did. They've done it. They do it almost daily on the regular. They sell this country out. They sell this country out to a proxy war with Russia and Ukraine. they'll gladly send a couple of $100 billion to the most corrupt country in Europe to fill the pockets of their donors and to appease Israel before they send a nickel to the United States to help you get your health care, to help you get a living wage, or get clean water in Flint. There still isn't clean water in Flint. How many cities in that? It's not just Flint. There's lead poisoned water all over this country. There's people living under bridges all over this country. And instead of sending a couple of $1 billion to fix that, which is that's all it would take. It would take way less money to fix homelessness in America and fix all the water in America and all the bridges in America than we sent to Ukraine. It would take a lot less. So they got the money and they just don't want to give it to you because the billionaire class wants us living in a country that's filled with homeless people to the brim, that makes you feel unstable, that your job could be taken away from you at any moment, or you have to work 2 or 3 of them, and that you're still crushed under healthcare bills when you get sick. They want that because, remember, chaos and fear serves the oligarchy. And what they get you to do is blame your neighbor for all that pain and all that economic pain you're worrying about. And what did they get you to focus on instead? They get you to focus on #MeToo. They get you to focus on sex violence on campus. They get you to focus on Donald Trump as a fascist. They get you to focus on Nazis with tiki torches. They get you to focus on everything except the economic pain that's being inflicted upon you by the oligarchy, the handful of billionaires that run this country and run this world and own your media. And people who watch this show are waking up to that. We need more people to wake up to it. Let me throw it over to you. Any last comments on this?
I think one of the most heartening things about the reaction to Gaza is to see how many people are waking up to it. And I am particularly heartened by what's happening on campuses. We just covered that protest at Brown where the dean tried to offer the customary kente cloth kind of gesture about the Palestinian students who were shot. And those kids were not having it. They were screaming about divesting from Israel, about not taking military contracts. So it seems like this is a big red pill moment, particularly for Gen Z. So it's encouraging.
You know, when one guy, meaning Benjamin Netanyahu, when one guy is walking around telling everybody else what the problems are in the outer world, eventually everybody figures out it's that one guy who's the problem. And it seems like that's what people are figuring out now. Hey, turns out Israel's the problem. Benjamin Netanyahu is the problem. Zionism is the problem. Not Judaism, but that's exactly what they want to do. They want you to conflate Zionism with Judaism. Those are two totally separate things.
Yes.
And you can be 100% hatred of Zionism, and that does not make you an anti-Semite. That does not make you anti-Jew or anti-Judaism. So that's what people need. And I think people are waking up to that too. I think just like when they called Bernie a sexist and a racist and violent, and then they said the same thing about Trump. Well, now those terms don't mean anything. And the same thing's happening with anti-Semitism. When you call everybody, 95% of all the protests in the world right now over Israel-Palestine are supporting Palestine. So when you call everybody in the world an anti-Semite, eventually that word doesn't mean anything. And I think we're to that point right now where anti-Semite doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's why it's so important for people to come out, because they can't brand everybody an anti-Semite, right? That's where strength in numbers comes in. If the protests are small, small groups can be marginalized easily because they're small, right?
Yeah, that's right. But when it's everybody, you can't marginalize everybody. Okay, over to...
And we're seeing more and more Jews coming out and telling their stories. Adam Friedland just did a really interesting segment. We also showed that Jewish woman who was talking about how she should have asked questions sooner. More and more Jews are coming out and talking about how, you are raised as a Jew very often to believe that you have an obligation to defend Israel, and that if you don't, you're betraying Judaism. And so many Jews are just getting red-pilled and realizing they were brainwashed.
You were ahead of the curve on this, Russ. You got yourself kicked out of Hebrew school because you didn't give a shit about going back to Israel, correct?
Yes, I did. I did. They told me we were all going to have to go back, and all my friends were like Italian Catholic. I didn't want to leave all my friends in America and go live in Israel.
Your president doesn't try to hide his British sympathies, Victor? Although, wouldn't you say that the people are against him, or at least sharply split?
Yes, but America is a strange country here, Stoller. Public opinion can change fast. You should remember that in dealing with us.
Public opinion doesn't just change, it is manufactured.
I don't find it to be a threat at all. And neither Russia or China. I actually feel like one of the biggest threats we're encountering today is the World Economic Forum, or the WEF. We have a group of people saying that they would like us to own nothing and be happy.
I believe the biggest threat is you. You are the biggest threat to yourself. People unable to take responsibility for their own lives, trying to outsource the decision making to their own government or to people around them, blaming anything but themselves for what's going on in their own lives.
Typically, if someone's telling you you need to be afraid of this, they're probably trying to deviate your attention to something else. So that's something that I pay attention to.
I was waiting for you. Now we can make it, Mac. I feel big as a damn mountain.